once again. This is Mark and Linda Wardell coming to you from the Freedom and Virtue Institute, and our goal in these videos of teaching young people at middle school, high school, even upper elementary how to cook or make arts and crafts is to give you ideas on how to become an entrepreneur. That's somebody who starts a little business of their own. They're perhaps ready to take more of a risk than other people might be able to do, but in any case, as a young person while you're in school, you could make some money for yourself and begin to save for college or for buying a car or for living in your own apartment someday. And so there's no better time than now to start saving for your future. So here we are. Today we're going to show you how to make a dessert. And this dessert is known to us as Dutch apple pudding. And so we're going to show you how to do that. It's pretty simple and it's very nice. It's easy to make. You can't make too much of an error. And so let's get going. I'll start and show you the recipe first and then the ingredients. Now this recipe we're going to put in the directions portion of the video at the bottom of the YouTube video. You'll be able to click on that and find it, or it might also be attached at the end of this video. So here we are showing you the ingredients and the method for making Dutch apple pudding. I won't go through it, but let me show you the ingredients that we're going to be using today. We're going to be using butter, and 1 stick of butter is 4 ounces, and we're going to need the entire stick because the recipe calls for 4 ounces. If you wanted to use butter, you should know that butter comes portioned also. If you want to use 1 tablespoon or 2, you can cut it at these marks on the back without having to measure it. So there are, you do have helpful markers on the wrapper of butter itself. But this whole stick is a 4-ounce stick we'll be using. We'll be using white granulated sugar, 1 egg, we'll be using baking powder, flour, some milk that we have in a jug here, only 2 tablespoons of milk, so we don't need much, lemon juice. Now, rather than squeezing lemons, which you can do certainly, you could purchase some of this 100% lemon juice, which we use for cooking. And you'll need apples. And these are largish apples, so we're only going to use 3. The recipe calls for 3 to 4, depending on the size of the apples, and cinnamon. As well as that, we need mixing bowls and measuring utensils, as you can see in the back here. And so without further ado, let us start making this recipe for you. Miss Linda's going to start by taking her 4 ounces of butter.
Let's move these
and,
so you can see.
And she's going to add to that 3 ounces of sugar. So the first thing Miss Linda will talk to you about after putting this butter in the bowl is how do you measure 3 ounces of sugar?
Well, if you have 1 whole cup of sugar, the sugar will actually measure 8 ounces.
Alright, so you can see the ounces measured here on the side. And sugar, it's fortunate that sugar in a measuring container like this, the ounces compare to the marks on the jug. So if you measure in here up to that the mark between 2 and 4 ounces, that'll be 3 ounces of sugar. But you might note that there are 8 ounces in a cup, and so it's also 3/8 of a cup. If there are 8 marks and 3 ounces is the 3rd mark, then 3 ounces of sugar is 3/8 of a cup. So there's various ways you can measure it. But Miss Linda's going to put sugar in there up to the 3 ounce mark, and that's how we know to put 3 ounces of sugar in. And there it is, right up to the 3 ounce mark. And that'll go in with the butter, and now you can cream that together. What does it mean, Miss Linda, to cream ingredients together?
You mix it in well together.
So you're using what? A wooden spoon
Wooden
in this
spoon,
case, okay.
yes. Now if your butter has come straight out of the fridge, it's going to be very hard to mix. And you can put it in the microwave just to soften it a little bit. But don't overdo it, don't melt it. Just needs to be a little softer.
So did you put this in the microwave?
I did do it earlier.
How long did you put it in for?
I put it in for 10 seconds, but it really needs a little bit more.
So you took it straight out of the refrigerator and put it in the microwave for 10 seconds. Could you put that whole bowl in the microwave for another 5 seconds just as it is?
I can.
Alright, so let's go up here to our microwave oven. Put that whole bowl in because the butter's just a little bit tough, too hard yet to cream. So we did what, 8 seconds?
8 seconds.
Okay, there's 3, 2, 1, 0. Let's see if that additional 8 seconds has made the butter more malleable to be able to be creamed. Does that feel better?
That is a lot better.
Alright, so that was easy. We just thought we would show you that so you can see how to get the butter just in the right softness to be able to cream in with the sugar, just like that. Do you see? That's creaming in the sugar with the butter. Alright, very good. So the next thing Miss Linda's going to do is she's going to add the lemon juice. In this case, we're using 1 teaspoon of lemon juice. That's a teaspoon she's measuring into. And the next thing that's going in there is the egg. She will put also the egg into that mixture. Our egg is hiding over here. There we are. Now it's always a good idea after you touch the shell of eggs just to wash your hands in case there is some bacteria on the outside shell of that egg. And then of course dry your hands nice and clean. And now Miss Linda's going to continue to fold that in or to cream that in. And again she's still using the wooden spoon. So now we have 4 ingredients in there: sugar, butter, lemon juice, and the egg. Alright, now that is kind of what we will call for now the bowl with wet ingredients. In a moment we're going to take a second bowl and prepare some dry ingredients, which are just flour and baking powder. And the flour is 1 cup. 1 cup of flour. There's a 1 cup measuring the device. And the baking powder that will come along to be added to that is 1 raised teaspoon of baking powder. Alright, so now we'll get our teaspoon back. It's had the lemon juice on it, so we just need to wash and dry that. There it is, and a raised teaspoon in this case, so not a flat one, just a little raised, like that. Okay, and now Miss Linda will mix those 2 things together. And next she's going to add a half of this dry ingredient into the wet ingredient bowl, about a half. And at the same time as she's stirring that in, she's going to add the milk. The next thing she'll add when that gets stirred in is the milk. And the milk is 2 tablespoons. Okay, so that's half of the flour mixture in. Now the 2 tablespoons of milk can go in. There's 1. And there's 2. And she'll mix that in. And after that's in, she will place the remainder of the dry ingredients in here and fold it in. Mix it in. Alright. Carefully at first so you don't puff the flour all over the bench and lose most of it. And what kind of a mixture are you expecting here?
It's not very runny.
Okay,
It's like you would expect for a cake.
Okay, so it's kind of a cake consistency. It takes a little bit of muscle power to mix that in. Alright, so next she's going to spread this mixture into an oblong shaped dish. Now we know that this amount of mixture fits into this oblong dish so that when it's spread out across the bottom of the dish, it'll be to a thickness of about 3/4 of an inch. So let's put that in here into the dish, and Miss Linda will then spread it across the bottom with the spatula and possibly a knife, so that there's an even thickness all the way through that oblong dish to around 3/4 of an inch or so. Okay, so that's the base of your Dutch apple pudding. It's very simple from here. We're going to peel some apples next, and then take the core out of the apples, and then slice the apples and place them on top of this dough. Alright, here we go. Miss Linda will now slice these apples, peel them, and she's going to use a sort of a potato peeler or an apple peeler, whatever you want to call it, to take the peel off into a bowl. There we go, and put that aside while she peels the next one. And after peeling them, we're going to take the core out of those apples. Now, you can buy in the store an apple coring device. We don't have one. We just usually use a knife when we're taking the core out of apples. In fact, you could also cut the apple in half and in quarters and cut the core out if you wanted to as well. You just don't want to be eating the core and the seeds of the apple in this recipe. Alright, so there is Miss Linda just about finished peeling her apples. Again, we're only using 3 today because they're largish apples. If they were smaller, we'd use 4 for this recipe. And now Miss Linda will take the core out of the apples. So she's going to slice them into 4 quarters, which makes the core easy to extract from each quarter. 1, 2, 3, 4 quarters of the first apple. Just be careful that if you're using a knife this way, young people, that you don't cut your fingers. Have you ever cut your fingers, Miss Linda?
Oh yes.
And what would you do if you cut your fingers?
I would need a band-aid.
Alright, just put
Stop
a
the
band-aid
bleeding.
on, okay? And try
As long as it's not too deep.
And we cut again. Yes, it's easy to get careless with a knife and cut your fingers. Just stop the bleeding and carry on. You don't want to get blood in your food. Alright. And of course, if it's a very bad cut, you'll need to have it tended to. But just be very careful with sharp knives. There we go. Now we're going to slice those into what kind of, just show us what kind of sizes. I like mine to be fairly thin, but that's a thicker one. I usually slice them fairly thinly. And we're just going to now layer these apple slices on top of this pudding mixture in this way, in lines. Alright, and there'll be, looks like 2, maybe 3 lines of apple is going across the dish.
We might have to make it go the other way, down the
Yeah,
middle.
down the middle the other way. Alright. There we go. And slice some more. There we go. Now we're going to make a little topping for this in a moment and then put it in the oven to cook for 45 to 60 minutes. So that's getting near the finish of completion, and as you can see, that took us about 15 minutes to prepare, but we did some talking and explaining before that. There we go. There's the 3 apples on top of the dough. Now the next thing is to make our topping. So in a very small dish, and Miss Linda has one here, we're going to put 3 teaspoons of sugar and 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. Okay, one. That's a tablespoon.
Well, they should be tablespoons.
They should be tablespoons, are you sure?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, we'll have to fix that on the recipe. I will fix that before it goes online. So 3 tablespoons of sugar and 2 tablespoons of cinnamon. Alright, so we're mixing those together. And then we're going to sprinkle that across the top of the apples. Alright. And what is the cinnamon for, Miss Linda?
Yeah, just give it a nice flavour.
That's the flavour. And what about the sugar? It does 2 things, doesn't it?
Well, it makes the apple just a little sweeter.
A little sweeter, and also doesn't it add a little crispiness to the surface?
Little bit.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Alright, now we're going to pop that in the oven. That we should have shown you has been preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Now in the oven it goes, and we're going to set that timer now for 45 minutes and then check it at that point and see if it's ready. Alright, so there it is cooking. We're going to pause the video at this point, and we'll come back in 45 minutes and show you that coming out of the oven, and then determine if it is ready or if it needs to go back in for a longer time. The recipe calls for 45 to 60 minutes of baking, and then this pudding is able to be served either hot or cold. It is good to eat either way. You might want to put some yellow custard on it or some milk on it as you serve it to eat.
Maybe ice cream.
Or maybe ice cream, exactly. Okay, so we'll see you again in about 45 minutes and show you that coming out of the oven. Well, here we are back after 45 minutes of our Dutch apple pudding, cooking in the oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Miss Linda's just about to pull it out, and we'll take a look and see if it's ready. You can see it's quite browned up, very nice looking. The sugar lets it brown a bit. How does that feel? Are they soft or still a little hard?
Some of them are crunchy, some of them are well cooked.
How about the...
Well, that looks good.
The mixture looks good, so we're using a toothpick to see if the dough has cooked through. What do you think? Is it ready, or do you think it needs to go back in a little bit? I think it looks ready.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Alright, so are you going to call it in, or does it need a little bit longer? What do you think?
It's done.
There we have it. There's our Dutch apple pudding, and you just cut that off in pieces and put it on the plate. I like it with some milk. You can eat it as it is, especially when it's cooler. You could put some custard on it, some ice cream on it, and we hope that you enjoy that Dutch apple pudding. We'll put the recipe up in the description section of this video. So that's a Dutch apple pudding for you to be able to sell. You can sell that by the piece, almost like it was a little cake, and on a stand, maybe at a farmer's market or a flea market, or sell it to your relatives and friends, and colleagues. So we hope that you enjoy this. We like this anytime for a dessert. And so this is Mark and Linda Wardell signing off from the Freedom and Virtue Institute, and you can find this on our YouTube channel.
Bye.
Bye everyone.